The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the narrow, winding path of the remote mountain pass in Japan. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, a stark contrast to the bustling cities far below. You, a seasoned hiker, had chosen this route for its famed solitude and breathtaking views, seeking a moment of peace away from the chaos of everyday life. But as the light faded, so did your sense of comfort. The mountains, majestic by day, now loomed ominously, their peaks lost in the gathering gloom. Your footsteps echoed unnaturally loud in the silence, each one a reminder of your isolation. Then, just as you rounded a bend, you heard it, a whisper, so faint it could have been the wind. You paused, straining your ears. Nothing. Shaking it off as your imagination, you continued, but the whispers returned, this time clearer, though no less indistinct. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a chorus of voices speaking in a language just beyond comprehension. Your heart raced as you spun around, searching for the source, but the path behind you was empty. The whispers grew louder when you stopped, as if feeding off your attention. Fear, cold and sharp, coiled in your stomach. You quickened your pace, your breath coming in short, visible puffs in the chill air. The whispers followed, now a constant murmur at the edge of your hearing, their tone shifting from curious to menacing. You tried to rationalize it, wind through the trees, distant voices from a village below, but deep down, you knew these were no natural sounds. The path ahead seemed endless, the shadows deepening with every step. Suddenly, a voice, clear as day, whispered your name. You froze, your blood turning to ice. No one knew you were here. The whispers erupted into a cacophony, surrounding you, pressing in from all sides. You broke into a run, your backpack bouncing against your shoulders, your heartbeat deafening in your ears. The path twisted and turned, but the whispers stayed with you, now laughing, mocking your fear. Just as you thought you couldn't take any more, you burst into a small clearing. The whispers stopped abruptly, the silence as jarring as the noise had been. Gasping for breath, you looked around. The clearing was empty, save for a single, ancient-looking stone marker, its inscriptions worn away by time. A sense of profound unease settled over you. You knew, without understanding how, that the whispers had led you here for a reason. But whether as a warning or a welcome, you couldn't say. As the last light of day vanished, you made a decision. You would not stay to find out. Turning your back on the clearing, you hurried down the path, the whispers silent now, but the feeling of being watched lingered. You never spoke of what happened that evening, not even to yourself. But sometimes, in the quiet of the night, you hear them again, the whispers in the dark, calling your name. Break time equals fives, greater than the script begins with the photographer, Akira, setting up camp near an abandoned shrine nestled in the remote mountains of Japan. The air is crisp, and the silence is profound, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Akira is here to capture the untouched beauty of the area, a passion project to escape the chaos of city life. The shrine, though dilapidated, stands as a silent guardian of the past, its presence both awe-inspiring and unnerving. As night falls, Akira decides to record the ambient sounds of the forest, hoping to capture the essence of the place for a multimedia exhibit. The initial recordings are mundane, wind, leaves, distant animal calls. But as Akira reviews the recordings the next morning, a chill runs down their spine. Among the natural sounds are whispers, faint but unmistakable, speaking in an ancient dialect that Akira can't understand. The voices seem to be in conversation, their tones urgent and fearful. Akira tries to rationalize the discovery, considering technical glitches or the wind playing tricks. But the whispers persist in subsequent recordings, growing clearer, more insistent. Each night, as Akira tries to sleep, the whispers seem to seep into the tent, not just through the recorder but in the air itself. The photographer's sleep becomes fitful, plagued by dreams of shadowy figures around the shrine, speaking the same incomprehensible words. The line between reality and nightmare blurs. Akira's curiosity turns to dread, Yet they can't bring themselves to leave, drawn by an inexplicable pull to uncover the source of the whispers. One evening, while reviewing footage, Akira notices something in the background, a fleeting shadow near the shrine that wasn't there when the photo was taken. The realization hits hard: whatever is speaking through the recorder is also watching. The final night, Akira decides to confront the mystery, setting up cameras and recorders around the shrine. The whispers escalate into a cacophony, the air thick with an unseen presence. Just as Akira is about to flee, the recorder captures a clear, solitary sentence in the ancient dialect, translated by a linguist friend weeks later: "Why did you abandon us?" The script ends with Akira returning to the city, the recordings and photos deleted in a fit of paranoia, but the whispers follow, faint and distant, in the quiet moments of the night, leaving Akira to wonder if they were ever truly alone in those mountains. Break time equals 5s. Greater than the air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth as I ventured deeper into the heart of Japan's remote mountain passes. The sun had begun its descent, casting long shadows that danced ominously across the forest floor. My name is Alex, and I had come here seeking solitude, a break from the relentless pace of city life. But as the light faded, so did my sense of peace. The forest, once a place of serene beauty, now felt like a living entity, watching, waiting. My footsteps were the only sound, or so I thought, until I noticed them: stones, arranged in a perfect line, leading away from the trail into the dense underbrush. They were too precise, too intentional to be the work of nature. A chill ran down my spine as I knelt to examine them. That's when I heard it, the whispers. Soft, indistinct, but undeniably there, urging me to follow the stones. My heart pounded in my chest, a primal part of me screaming to run, to get as far away as possible. But there was nothing there, no physical threat I could see. Yet the feeling of dread was overwhelming, a weight pressing down on me. I stood, my legs trembling, and took a step back. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if angered by my hesitation. I turned and fled, the forest now a blur around me. The whispers followed, a cacophony of voices in my ears, until I burst out onto the trail, gasping for breath. The mountain pass was silent once more, but the fear lingered. I never returned to that part of the forest, and to this day, I wonder what awaited me at the end of that line of stones. The whispers in the dark remain unexplained, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lurk in Japan's remote mountain passes. Break time equals 5s. Greater than the script begins with a group of 4 friends, Aki, Ren, Hiro, and Yuki, hiking through one of Japan's most remote mountain passes. The air is crisp, and the only sounds are the rustling leaves and the occasional distant call of a night bird. The friends are exhausted from the day's trek and decide to rest at a small, wooden shelter nestled along the path. The shelter is old, its wood darkened by time and weather, but it offers a reprieve from the chilling mountain air. As they settle in, the atmosphere is light, filled with laughter and the sharing of snacks. But as the last light of day fades, an uneasy silence falls over the group. The wind picks up, carrying with it a whisper so faint it's almost imperceptible. Aki. The voice is unmistakable, calling from the darkness beyond the shelter. Aki stiffens, her laughter dying in her throat. "Did you hear that?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. The others shake their heads, but the tension is palpable. Then, it comes again, this time clearer: Ren. Ren's head snaps up, his eyes wide. "That's my name," he says, his voice shaky. The group exchanges nervous glances, the earlier merriment replaced by a growing sense of dread. Hiro, the most skeptical of the group, suggests it's just the wind playing tricks on them. But then, Hiro. The whisper is right at the edge of the shelter, as if someone is standing just outside the door. Hiro's bravado falters, his hand trembling as he reaches for the flashlight. "Yuki." The final whisper sends a chill down Yuki's spine. She clutches Aki's arm, her nails digging in slightly. The friends are frozen, their breaths shallow. The decision to investigate is made out of a desperate need to rationalize the unexplainable. Armed with flashlights, they step outside, the beam of light cutting through the oppressive darkness. The forest is still, too still. There's no sign of anyone, no footprints in the soft earth, no rustling of underbrush. The whispers have stopped, but the silence is now more terrifying. Back inside the shelter, the friends try to convince themselves it was their imagination, but the fear lingers. The night passes in fitful sleep, each of them jumping at every creak of the wood, every gust of wind. The next morning, they pack up in haste, eager to leave the mountain pass behind. But as they step out into the light of day, a final whisper floats on the breeze, so faint they can't be sure they heard it at all. Remember. The script ends with the group descending the mountain, the experience bonding them in a way they never expected, yet each carrying a silent, unspoken terror that the whispers might follow them home. Break time equals 5s, greater than the wind howls through the narrow passes of Japan's remote mountains, a sound that seems almost alive, whispering secrets to those who dare to listen. The air is thick with the scent of pine and the faint, metallic tang of impending rain. The path ahead is barely visible, swallowed by the encroaching mist that rolls in with the dusk. This is where our story begins, with a local guide named Hiroshi, a man who knows these mountains like the back of his hand, but even he feels a shiver down his spine tonight. Hiroshi is leading a small group of hikers, his usual cheerful demeanor subdued by the weight of the tales he's heard, tales of vanishings, of voices in the dark. His motivation is simple, to ensure the safety of those in his care, but as the night deepens, even he begins to question the wisdom of this journey. The first sign something is amiss comes not from sight, but from sound. A melody, faint and beautiful, drifts through the trees, a song without source. Hiroshi stops, his breath catching in his throat. He's heard stories of this song, a siren's call that lures the unwary to their doom. The hikers behind him murmur in confusion, some enchanted by the beauty of the music, others, like Hiroshi, filled with a growing sense of dread. The guide's heart pounds in his chest as he tries to rationalize the sound, blaming it on the wind, on his imagination, but the song grows clearer, more insistent. One of the hikers, a young woman named Aiko, steps forward, her eyes distant, drawn to the melody. Hiroshi grabs her arm, his grip firm, his voice urgent as he tells her to stay close. The others gather around, their faces pale in the dim light, their breaths visible in the cold air. The decision is made to turn back, but the path seems to have shifted, the familiar landmarks now alien in the swirling mist. Panic begins to set in as the group realizes they're lost, the song now a constant, haunting presence. Hiroshi's mind races, his training kicking in as he tries to keep the group calm, but the fear is palpable, a living thing among them. The climax comes not with a monster leaping from the shadows, but with a realization, a moment of sheer terror when Hiroshi counts the hikers and comes up one short. Aiko is gone, vanished without a sound, her last known position at the edge of the group, closest to the song. The search is frantic but futile, her name echoing off the mountains, unanswered. The group stumbles back to safety as dawn breaks, the song fading with the light, but the horror of the night lingers. Hiroshi reports the incident, but Aiko is never found, her fate a mystery that joins the others whispered about in the villages below. The script ends not with a resolution, but with a question, a lingering unease as Hiroshi stands at the foot of the mountain, looking up at the pass, wondering if the song will call again, and who will answer next. Break time equals 5s, greater than the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone as I stepped into the mouth of the tunnel, my flashlight cutting a feeble path through the oppressive darkness. The tunnel, a relic of a bygone era, was said to be abandoned, but the whispers of the locals spoke of something far more sinister. I was here to document the unknown, to peel back the layers of fear and superstition that shrouded this place. My camera was rolling, capturing every step, every breath, every whisper of the wind that seemed to coil around me like a living thing. The further I ventured, the heavier the air became, as if the tunnel itself was breathing, inhaling my presence with a quiet, unsettling hunger. Then, I heard it, a whisper, so faint it could have been the wind, but it wasn't. It was a voice, or something mimicking one, echoing my words back to me with a delay that made my skin crawl. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The tunnel responded in kind, but the echo was wrong, distorted, as if it had been twisted by something unseen. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of primal fear. I told myself it was just the acoustics, the strange way sound traveled in enclosed spaces, but the rationalizations did nothing to ease the growing dread. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until they weren't echoes at all but voices, murmuring in a language I couldn't understand. Then, as suddenly as they had begun, the whispers stopped. The silence was deafening, a vacuum that sucked the air from my lungs. That's when I felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. The darkness beyond my flashlight's beam seemed to pulse, to breathe, to lean in closer. My hands shook as I fumbled for my camera, desperate to capture proof of what was happening, but the screen was nothing but static, a seething mass of gray and black. I turned to leave, to run, but the tunnel stretched on impossibly before me, the exit nowhere in sight. The last thing I remember is the cold, the all-consuming cold, and the whisper of my name, spoken in a voice that was not my own. The camera was found weeks later, at the mouth of the tunnel, its battery dead, its memory card blank. But sometimes, if you listen closely, you can still hear the whispers, calling out from the darkness, waiting for the next curious soul to step inside.